Hello everybody, it's me, Derpy Dino, the Derpy named Dino, and today we're talking about the game I made, because God knows my ego cannot handle not talking about One Night at Monk Monk's for even one day, so might as well make a video on it, right? So we're going to be doing the Jonachrome thing. No, not that one, the other one. There you go. So, this is sort of a weird thing to do, because it's sort of the equivalent of playing a game that you made. I guess that's obvious. Let me try to put perspective. It's like making a fan song about a game you made. What I'm trying to do here is sort of talk about how much different my game was meant to be when it was being made versus how it ended up being. So, yeah, uh, let's do this. Alright, so I guess the best first place to start would be how the game was going to actually function on a door system instead of the taser system. If you know anything about the game I made, which, Lord have mercy, you're watching this video, you probably do, you know about the taser system. Instead of like other games where you just shut a door, you instead have your trusty taser to get rid of these things. But that was not going to be. It was going to be almost like every other first FNAF fan game ever, because God knows I'm creative. It was going to originally be you shut the door, but I didn't know how to actually implement this, so I sort of just switched it halfway through, which meant that the entire game got side railed into what it was going to be. I had a lot of guys planned out on what I thought they were going to do, and then when I changed to the taser system, they stopped working altogether. Apart from that, there was also meant to be a lot more arcade machines in the arcade. In the current game, there's one room with a grand total of 3 arcade machines. I know, this is truly a moment in history. And it was supposed to be a lot more. It was supposed to be like almost every camera, but I wasn't able to because every camera didn't have enough space, and adding another one would have felt weird, to say the least. So it ended up being one room with 3, so I could still call it an arcade. My current explanation as to why is when they shut down, they got rid of them, but those ones were too damaged for them to care, so they just left it there. I don't know. I'm not smart. I guess while we're on the subject of story, the story. The real story of it, without going into lore and then becoming the next Matt Pat here, is simply you made a bet with a dude named Tom, and because you lost that bet, you now have to spend a night at the abandoned Monk Monk Arcade, which has been abandoned for 20 years now. And when you get there, the animatronics start acting up FNAF style, just the basics. And speaking of those animatronics, like I said, the door is being removed, just about completely messed with everything I was trying to do. But this didn't go for the first one. Monk Monk, the name of the game, is just as basic as it gets. He just walks to the doors, he just got ties them away, and if the doors were there, you would have had to shut the door instead. I know, this is truly a moment in history. The real reason is he's sort of the Mario of the game. He's just the basic. He's the Mario in Smash Brothers. There's nothing super special to him. I tried to make it so that he hides on the cameras, but unless you are blind, no, you are not going to be. If you get confused, wow, you need to go get your eyesight checked. Then there was Bunny, of which currently is basically just Monk Monk, but instead of hiding on the cameras, he hides on the doors, which can much more consistently fool people. Along with this, he's the only one of which can kill you without you having to put up and down the monitor, other than Squishy, but we get that when we get there. For Monk Monk and Derpy Dino, when they get to your office, you have to put down your camera, see them at the doorway, put your camera back up, and then put it back down. And then they're able to jump scare you. For Bunny, he instead goes on a timer, and even when your camera's up, he can still get to you, which made him special in the way that he can sneak attack you And so the cameras were actually needed. You need to know which way he was going because he hides in the doorways, like I said, and you can't just wait every now and then and just zap whichever one Squishy isn't at, which I guess I should explain Squishy. Squishy is the outlier, unlike the other three where you need to zap them, you just need to not zap him. He goes to one of the three openings and then just sort of, you know, chills there until he gets bored and goes to another one. And if you zap that doorway, then he gets mad at you, I guess. I don't know. The way I explained it in the game was that he was malfunctioning and the electricity caused his servos to explode or something. And then there was Derpy Dido, which, oh lord, if there was ever a removing doors absolutely screwed you over, it would go to him. Because, wow, he just. Okay. The way he was immensely. The way he was initially meant to work was he was supposed to be Foxy. He would randomly jump up from his spot and charge at you. Except, unlike Foxy in FNAF 1, I need to specify this in FNAF 1, unlike Foxy where you had to shut the door, you would have to leave both of the doors open. Shutting the doors would do one or two things, of which I never decided on. It would either break the doors, meaning that the other guys could get to you, or he would break the doors and lose enough momentum to stay in your office because the way he would run at you would be that he would roll in the cameras. He would roll. Initially, instead of being long and lanky, he was meant to be buff, which would have been so goofy. It just would not have looked good. So it ended up being scrapped and just changed to being long and lanky. And then the whole idea was scrapped because initially the vent was meant for Bunny. Bunny was supposed to be the Derpy Dino guy, but then he switched to being another monk, and Derpy Dino took Bunny's spot, which was not the goal, but worked pretty well. So I don't know. I guess that gets to just be like that then. Then there was Donald Duke, or Donald A. Duke. This was the Golden Freddy. This was just the Golden Freddy of the game. He has a 1 in 1 million chance to show up, and if you pull up the camera and then pull it back down, it kills you. But if you click on him, he saves you. He won't kill you. I sort of hinted that this was how he worked inside of his death message, which if you put it backwards and then use your brain to listen to the most fragmented sentence known to man, says, "Do I look golden to you? Yes, I just broke the fourth wall, get used to it," which, looking back, was a little bit on the nose. But yeah. Another thing I feel like I should talk about is that the game was meant to be a lot more goofy. The game was supposed to be a lot more like One Night at Flumpty's, where it was goofy and there were funny characters in an office with just random stupidity lying around, but it was ultimately changed due to how the game was actually played and made. It was no longer goofy. It was supposed to be a lot more silly at the beginning, but it slowly sort of just became not that. I don't know. There was actually one item that I designed that was goofy for the office, and it was, and I kid you not, a wise penny. It was a round brown circle with glasses and a beard. And although it was pretty funny, and I'm pretty sure that if you go to back to some of the earlier jump scares and like delete their front and you look all the way back, somewhere buried beneath all of the layers, it's still there for some reason. Because I designed the jump scares before I got rid of it and never went back to change it. I don't know. It was just a weird thing that I thought to add, and it ended up just not being as good as I thought it would be. And while we're on the topic of how the office was built, it's pretty obvious that's supposed to be the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 office. It's a room with two doors on either side, but this one has a vent, which, what do you think this could have been based on? One Night at Candy's, perhaps? Or Five Nights at Candy's, perhaps? With the window? One Night at Flumpty's? With Grunkfist? No. It was Five Nights at Sonic's Maniac Mania. That one game that no one asks for, and yet I play so much on this channel. I just added it in, and it ended up being pretty cool. I don't know. There was no reason for it to be based on that alone, but that was the inspiration. But with all this said, was there anything at all, that I would have gone back and changed about this game? Well, yeah, probably like one thing, two, maybe. The biggest thing is that the game ends up feeling slow paced and boring, and if anything, a test of patience. The second thing I would change is sort of the way the beginning call works. It's okay, and it sort of makes sense on why it was made, but that's not the biggest issue, is it feeling unnatural. It's that Squishy Dino, the person that shows up to your office first, 100% of the time is mentioned at the very end, meaning that Squishy Dino is almost always the first death in the game, which sucks because he is probably the worst jump scared. And the only reason that it's a maybe is because Monks is overwhelming. Because when I did the thing where I put fancy shading, I made Monks that he didn't actually get any closer and just turned his head a little. Oh, and while we're on the topic of jump scares, those things. Monks was the first to be made, and it was okay. I mean, all of them are sort of but that one was the first of which was sort of okay. Then there was Squishy Dinos, of which again is not that good. Monks is him turning his head, and Squishy Dinos is him coming in from the left slide and slowly sliding in. Derpy Dinos was made, which was by far the best, because not only does it show a creepy design, of which is then later used in the second game, because I thought it was that good, but it also shows up fairly arbitrarily, because every other character has looked in some way normal, and then this is just some SCP-096 looking mofo. Then there was Bunnies, of which didn't make a whole lot of sense. For some reason, his eyes turned red, of which, yes, is a thing in the second game where his eyes progressively get more red as he gets close to you, which I'm not going to talk about when I'm close to too much. I promise I don't want this freaking video to be an hour long, because that game is so complicated. But it was okay, I guess. Then there was the sound for the jump scare, which every sound of the game was made by me. Even the piano, yeah, that was made by a grand piano that I have in my parlor. I am not kidding you. So, the jump scare noise, what do you think it was made by? It was made by me and my mom sitting in a room and just screaming. No fancy. I think I made it so that it was louder, and I roboticized it in Scratch Studios and then freaking sped it up. And I think that was all I did. Other than that, it was just me and my mom screaming, and that made a pretty good jump scare noise. And as for the main theme, yeah, that was just made by me. I didn't know a single thing on how to play piano, and even now, I'm not super, like, at all good with it. I just learned how to use it, like, last weekend of the time of making this, so precisely 1 week ago. So I really had no idea what I was doing, and just randomly pressed buttons, and it actually turned out okay. And I think apart from that, we're done. Anyways, before I make this an hour long, I should probably say goodbye. So, you all subscribe, like, whatever. Go play my game, and I'll see you later. Bye.